when it's not on the top of your desk, that means all righty, Jacob.
Okie dokie. So, I know my personal favorite scapegoat, whenever anything goes wrong, is blame the government, right? Like, I don't really have a say in what goes on, so something's out of my control. It makes sense. So, a lot of people actually don't like the government. The government's had really poor approval ratings for quite some time. Since the 80s, it's been below like 50% for a while. Or it deviates a lot, but with a lot of current events, it's been quite low compared to history. This is fueled by a few things. Distrust in politicians. People see a lot of things happening. They don't see their personal views being represented, and there's a lot of distrust. They see the economy doing poorly sometimes, and that fuels low approval rating. And people just generally don't feel like they have an influence in the government. So that's why voter reform is such a big issue. It can hopefully get the ball rolling and help improve a lot of issues. Now, one big reason that people don't feel like they have a lot of influence in the voting process is because of funding, the way elections are financed. The 2016 election costed $6.8 billion, $2.5 billion just from presidential, and the rest for Congress members, governors, all that stuff. That's quite a lot of money, and when people want to influence the election, they don't really see like they will have a big impact on that big number. And corporations are mainly ones financing these elections. They push special interests upon the politicians, and they have a lot of power. It's pretty much impossible to gain traction as a campaign without large corporations and financial backing. So the power is stagnant within the government, and that's not good. It withholds progress and keeps people from having their opinions represented. So gerrymandering is another big thing that's needs to be changed. That's affecting the voter people's agency and allowing them to make actual decisions on their government. So basically, it's changing the congressional districts so that they match with certain parties' the populations. They base it off censuses, and so when the current leading party, they generally decide the lines so they can keep their power, and it keeps regions from having any deviance in the political climate. And so it makes voters feel like they don't have a say, because quite often they actually don't. So a way to fix this is either having a bipartisan process for the drawing of the lines, or have it a completely arbitrary or third-party process. And Liberation Day is another proposed fix to this problem of low voter turnouts. Currently, how it is Election Day just is a normal day, and people are saying to actually make it a holiday, a national holiday, so people don't work, and they get around and they're able to have more political discourse. It will promote. It promotes people coming together and talking, and actually prioritizing the political process. It would strengthen the American ideals of democracy. and hopefully will create a more representative turnout at the ballots. And America, it's actually not founded directly as a democracy, it's a republic. So what that means exactly is people do not, they don't, or it's not based on the majority, which is a democracy, it's based on individuals and representatives. So this is actually a good thing. It's a quite complicated issue, but having it as a republic instead of a democracy, it prevents people from it prevents the public from having opinions and having those opinions change drastically. It keeps people who have experience in power, but it can also lead to alienation of the people. It leads to a lot of unfortunate things, like in our lifetime we've had 2 presidents elected without the popular vote, and that has not quite turned out well. And so I feel like we've actually been desensitized to poor politics and bad policy. Back in George W. Bush, he was actually the least, or he had the highest disapproval rating of all presidents, and that was at 71% at its peak. And now he's actually had his current approval rating, was polled by a Washington Post in a recent article. People currently view him actually as high as Bill Clinton, who we had one of the highest economics. We actually had a budget surplus instead of a deficit. We had very low unemployment, and under Bush, we had wars and high unemployment. So people seeing that change in perspective, I feel like people are desensitized, and we need to change this climate. So what we can do is really talk about it. We can talk together. We can not vote for the people who people say will win. We should vote for people who we want to win, and we can talk to our Congress people about changing the laws to make it more equitable process.